Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us here today, joining in from Asia and Europe, all over our member countries for this country-focused workshop series on Thailand and navigating science and technology diplomacy ecosystems. We're very grateful for all of you for being here and very much looking forward to today's session, which will focus on the role of academia and research institutions in Thailand's science, technology, and innovation diplomacy ecosystem. We're very happy and proud also to be organizing this series in partnership with the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation, or MESHI for short in Thailand, as well as the Office of National Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation Policy Council, or NXPO, also for short. For those of you who didn't join last week's session or tuning in from elsewhere and don't know me, my name is Linnea Rignell and I work at the Asia Europe Foundation and our education department, specifically here on our projects on science and technology diplomacy. And I have the pleasure of being your MC for today's session and guiding you through our 2 hours ahead. So allow me to quickly introduce what we have scheduled for the coming 2 hours. I will begin with a short introduction to contextualize the project and this workshop series in relation to our initiative as a whole, before I will hand over the floor to our keynote presenter for today, Dr. Ratashat Konavin, for the introduction to the ecosystem and related to research and academia. And for the second half of our session, we will be having a panel discussion with some great speakers today. And you will have the opportunity also as an audience to ask some questions and get some answers during our Q&A portion related to it. So we're very excited to be exploring this topic here today and to see what the intersection between science, innovation, technology, policy, and diplomacy will look like in this space. And as I mentioned, as we have the opportunity for you to ask questions, you can do so via the Q&A button and function in this Zoom webinar. So you will see that you have the option of chat and Q&A. And the Q&A allows you to ask your questions, to upvote any questions that you find interesting, and to engage there. So take the opportunity here to contribute to the topics that we'll be covering today and to engage in discussion. We'll also be going through this during both with the keynote presenter and with the panelists. So very much looking forward to see what you can come up with. But without further ado, allow me to give a brief introduction to our organization and the project in which we are working under with this workshop series. So as many of you perhaps already knows, ASEF, or the Asia Europe Foundation, is an intergovernmental organization which works on strengthening mutual understanding between Asia and Europe, as the name entails. And we do so across a number of different thematic areas, bringing together governmental stakeholders, civil society, and others to strengthen this connectivity between the two regions and provide also opportunities for collaboration and exchange to solve global challenges, but also to learn from one another in these different topics. And recently, as of last year, we've been focusing on working towards this goal under the topic and in the field of science and technology diplomacy. And in 2024, last year, we conducted a mapping exercise, a big report on science and technology diplomacy strategies and initiatives across Asia and Europe for us to get an idea of what the different countries are doing within this field, and also to help more help ourselves and others to learn about the different countries in these two regions. And building on this, in this year, we wanted to give the opportunity to highlight a number of countries who are actively contributing to this field, and to help more stakeholders from other countries to learn what they are doing and understand their ecosystem in order to more effectively collaborate on different topics and within different sectors. So looking at 3 aspects, we're going into government. We've already done so on Thailand in the past week. And we're also today focusing on academia and the research institutions, and we're also focusing on the private sector. So these 3 areas is our opportunity to give this overview. And we're happy to be here today focusing specifically on academia and research institutions. Also, beyond Thailand, we've conducted already a workshop series on Malaysia and on Kazakhstan. And alongside this workshops on Thailand this month, we're also conducting ones on Indonesia. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up for those sessions on our website as well, and we'll give you some more information on this later in the session. But with that quick introduction, I believe that we are ready to further dive into the topic and learn more, which is the reason why we're here today. And we will do so by starting with our introductory lecture to give this first overview and insight into the system. So allow me to introduce our keynote lecturer today, Associate Professor Ratashat Mongkolnaving, who is currently an associate professor at Chulalongkorn University, as well as the chairperson of the Committee on Enhancing Quality of Higher Education towards International Standards at the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation, or MHESI, as I mentioned in the beginning, which is also one of our partners for this series. This committee plays a crucial role to support MHESI in driving the key policy on reinventing Thai universities to raise the standard and enhance the quality of Thai higher education institutions and transnational education, and is one of the key approaches to support this policy. And Associate Professor Ratashat is, as I mentioned, an associate professor at Chulalongkorn University, where he works in the Department of Physics and the Faculty of Science. He is here specialized in plasma physics and nuclear. He's also received his PhD from the Imperial College of London, and we're very excited to have him here today. So with that quick introduction, you can learn more about him also on our website. I would like to hand over the floor to Professor Ratashat for his keynote. Very much looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Linia. Allow me to share my screen for the presentation. Okay. Okay, is it sharing?
It's still pending on our side.
Okay, it's coming up. All right. All right. Is everything okay now?
Yes, great.
Yes. Okay, let's start. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm greeting to all join us online from across Asia and Europe. I would like to begin by express my sincere appreciation to the Asia-Europe Foundation, ASEF, jointly with Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation of Thailand, or MESI, and the Office of National Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation Policy Council, or NXPO, for co-organizing this meaningful workshop series. It is a great pleasure and honor to present to you today in my capacity as a chair of the working group on internationalization for the ministry. Our gathering today is crucial as the global landscape of higher education, research and innovation becomes increasingly interconnected and at times very increasingly complex. We are here not only to showcase the Thailand progress, but also to reflect on shared responsibilities and practical solutions. In particular, I would like to speak out the relevance of science diplomacy, our national approach to internationalization, and the rising importance of research integrity in a geopolitical sensitive world. To introduce the science diplomacy, the term science diplomacy, in my understanding, represent image of scientists advising diplomats or high-level summits about climate change, but in practice, it goes far beyond that. The science diplomacy is probably best understood as knowledge diplomacy, a strategic interface between science, technology, and international relations. It draws upon the power of knowledge to inform foreign policy, build international partnerships, and address pressing global challenges such as pandemics, climate change, and emerging technologies. The Royal Society and American Association for the Advance of Science, AAS, propose a helpful framework with these three dimensions. Diplomacy for science, using diplomatic efforts to facilitate international scientific collaboration and infrastructure development. Secondly, science for diplomacy is leveraging scientific cooperation to build trust and improve international relations, even between adversaries. Thirdly, science in diplomacy, integrating scientific evidence into policy making on global issues such as climate, health, and security. This approach views science as a universal language, regardless of geography or ideology. The pursuit of knowledge is a common ground. Science diplomacy becomes an instrument not just of influence, but of cooperation, resilience, and shared progress. For Thailand, we have come to understand that science diplomacy is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Our Ministry of Higher Education has been driving forward a vision of internationalization that is both proactive and adaptive. The Working Group on Internationalization has identified 5 strategic directions to promote global engagement. Firstly, the global cooperation network development. We actively seek to expand and diversify Thailand's presence in global academic and innovation networks. Secondly, internationalization at home, meaning strengthening intercultural understanding and global skills within Thai universities. Thirdly, strategic partner enhancement is building deeper, more meaningful relationship with our key partners, countries, and institutions. Fourthly, Thailand branding promotion. This is for supporting Thai talents to shine on the world stage. And lastly, the agile internationalization ecosystem. We hope to develop flexible systems that can respond to shifting global dynamics. And there's a few highlights of our initiatives in the internationalization. It includes the International Lens Project, which assesses strength internationalization across Thai higher education. Accreditation support for Thai institutions, including QAA and NECHE accreditation body to meet international standards. And also policy mechanism to attract high potential academics and students from abroad through reinventing projects. Supporting for cross-border research cooperation in frontier areas such as biotechnology, climate science, and space technology. These are not isolated efforts, but they reflect a broader shift towards science diplomacy as a core strategy, connecting Thai higher education and research with international cooperation, policy dialogue, and sustainable development. So let me share more example of MHESI science diplomacy in action. You can see here, first, the regional science park and innovation ecosystem. The ministry supports 44 regional science parks, including Thai Science Park and the special area, the Eastern Economic Corridor, to foster research and development by linking university with SMEs and startups. These platforms serve as launchpad for global partnership. Another example is the space collaboration. Thailand's partnership with international agencies such as the European Research, CERN, and the launch of Theos satellite through GISTA, exemplifying science diplomacy applied to remote sensing and geospatial innovation. Thirdly, global science ministerial dialogue. In March 2025, the ministry took part in UNESCO Global Dialogue on Science Diplomacy, reflecting Thailand's commitment to shape global science policy. International diplomatic outreach. In 2024, our permanent secretary led a delegation of ambassadors from 26 countries to our research establishment, NASDA, an affiliated research center, demonstrating our capacity and openness to international scientific engagement. Now, however, as our university and research agency becomes more global, they also face greater exposure to risk, some new and some evolving. The OECD's 2022 report on integrity and security in the global research ecosystem was a wake-up call for many. It reminds us that international collaboration must go hand in hand with safeguard trust, transparency, and ethical conduct. Across the world, countries are now developing due diligence framework. For example, in Japan, checklist for a new risk in internationalization, Canada's national security guidelines for research partnership, Germany's DLR manual on due diligence in science. These frameworks help institutions assess risks such as conflict of interest or commitment, misuse of dual use or sensitive technology, foreign interference, and information leakage. But what do they have in common? They all aim to foster a culture of responsible openness, ensuring that scientific collaboration remains inclusive and secure. In Thailand, we are taking this seriously. The ministry encourages all institutions, academia, and research to ensure transparency in research affiliations and funding sources, implement internal risk assessment before entering sensitive partnerships, promoting a culture of critical openness among scholars and administrators. We must not allow security concerns to deter the progress in collaboration, but we must be vigilant and prepared. So, what does this mean in practical terms for our universities and research agency? So let us look at a few suggestions. One is to the building internal policy capacity. Institutions should align with national and international guidelines on research security and integrity. Secondly, establish help desks or focal points. These can be support researcher in identifying and addressing potential risks before entering international partnerships. Third, ensure ethical reviews mechanism. International projects should undergo rigorous ethics and risk assessments. Invest in training. Raise awareness across faculty and staff on due diligence, transparency, and responsible conduct. Integrate science, technology, innovation, diplomacy into current-day curricula. Prepare the next generation of scholars to operate at the intersection of science and global policy. And finally, to engage with strategic science diplomacy initiatives. Participate in platforms such as space research partnerships, regional science parks, and diplomatic outreach. Visit to strengthen international collaboration and institutional visibility. As internationalization accelerates, our governance structures must also be as agile. In closing reflection, I would like to highlight a simple message. The science diplomacy and research integrity are not opposing forces. They are complementary principles that must guide how we engage with the world. And internationalization, I believe, if done right, It is not just about numbers of memorandum of understandings and a lot of visits, but it is also about building a global research and education ecosystem that is open, ethical, and future ready. And I believe today, with our panelists, everyone will be able to learn more in details about what is being done in each institution and what is going on in our research ecosystem. So finally, my thanks once again to ASEF, MHESI, and NXPO, and all our collaborators for making this dialogue possible. And I thank each of you for the commitment to share the progress. And today, let the conversation inspire a stronger cooperation, clearer values, and wiser choice for the future of our international higher education and science. So thank you very much. So I'll be happy to answer any further more questions. I think we still have a little bit of time, right? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Rathachat, for that introduction and for sharing with us. I think it's very interesting to see also that Thailand focuses a lot on research security, and I believe that this is something that is a very hot topic right now, and I can see a lot of countries also focusing on this, so it's very interesting to learn. But yes, we do have time for questions from the audience. So I encourage you all to ask your questions. For help on facilitating this, I would like to invite our chair, who would also later facilitate the panel discussion with our panelists. So allow me to introduce Dr. Somkiat Kamalpun to join us for this portion to help facilitate, who is the Minister Counselor at the Office of Higher Education Research and Innovation in Brussels. And he oversees academic and technical cooperation between Thailand and the European Union, countries in the continental Europe, as well as the United Kingdom. And prior to his tenure in Brussels, he's also served as the director of Global Human Development Group, also at MHESI, where he oversaw student, faculty, and research mobility program. So very topical for today's session as well. In addition, he's also been in charge of the Thailand Scholarship Program, ASEA Uninet, and research collaboration under Thailand and France Education and Research Cooperation Framework. And on a regional level, also served as a member of the ASEAN Working Group on Higher Education Mobility, on UMAP Board AIMS Steering Committee, as well as the drafting team of APT Joint Guidelines on New Forms of Mobility in Higher Education. He received his doctorate in higher education management from University of Pittsburgh. So with that great experience within higher education, and specifically here perhaps focus on mobility and international cooperation, we are very excited to have him here facilitating today's Q&A. So with that, I would like to hand over the floor to you for facilitation.
Okay, thank you very much, Kulinia, and thank you very much, Jan Rathachat, for the presentation. We have the first question coming from the audience. It said, do you see any improvement of the Thai government budget allocation for the research? Perhaps not research integrity or research security per se, but research as a whole system.
Yes, I think that's a very good question. I think we have an ambitious target. We try to reach like 2% of GDP for the research at some point. But I think in the past couple of years, when we initiated the new ministry, I think we consolidated all the research funds into a single funding agency. And now we can manage it more effectively and efficiently. And with that, we hope to grow the budgets for the research in the future. So starting off with the efficient management, and hopefully we gain more interest and investment in other sectors to invest in this funds. So right now, I think we are sort of almost reaching maybe 1%, but there's been a bigger budget by consolidating all different research funds from all different agencies. But hopefully we will be able to grow that funds.
All right, thank you very much. Let me add to Dr. Ratchat's comment. The Ministry of Higher Education already set the target for the research budget allocation. Like Ajahn Ratchat already mentioned, we set the target at 2% of the GDP. It means we already have the target. We have the mechanism in place. We have the funding system for the research, and we have the what we call the PMU, the unit that help allocating the research based on the agenda. So we still see if it's will yield the result that we expected. So that's the first question. So if you have any other question, please feel free to type in the Q&A. If you still do not have any question from the audience, perhaps a question from the speakers, from the panelists, if you have any questions or anything to add to the chat presentation before we go to the panel session.
I have perhaps a quick question from my side. I think it's very interesting to learn more about the focus that Thailand is putting on increasing the overall standards when it comes to, for both of you in this case, I think higher education as well. Is there a specific reason for this focus as of late, or is there a specific, let's say, goal in mind when it comes to enhancing the standards across different institutions in this case? And what do you see as the biggest challenge that you're facing in trying to create this overarching standard across the institutions?
Thank you, Linia. It's a very interesting question. I think because of Thai University, we have almost 150 plus university in Thailand with a population of 70 million people. I think we have a lot of numbers of universities, but actually they are doing similar things. And the initiative that the ministry is trying to do is try to focus their activities into their specialization. So that's why we have what we call reinventing universities. And in reinventing university, we classify the university into 5 groups of strategic direction. The first one will have their focus on the global research, the frontier research. And the second group is actually to creating the technology and innovations. So that is the research utilization. And the third group is the big one, is a big group which actually will deal with the community development. So in fact, apply the knowledge from the group 1 and use technology from group 2, apply it into the community developments. So the regional and community and developments. And then we have the fourth group, which are the moral intellect, because Thailand is one of the country that's renowned for the religious study, the Buddhism. So we have a really good Buddhist teaching universities. And also the fifth one is actually to enhance the professional developments, the university that spend a lot of time and focus on producing highly professionals, graduates. So in fact, yes, and because of that, once they are on the right track, hopefully their quality will improve. And the ministry itself also set goals for their improvements. For example, if they want to become a world-class university, surely the quality, the standards that they have to operate has to be up to that international standards. And that's why we are looking for all that improvement in the quality and the standards. Similarly to the other group as well for the technology and also the area development. So we apply appropriate standards to different groups of universities. And then that's what we call the Reinventing University project.
Thank you, Ajahn Ratachat. There are three more questions. Perhaps let's do them together because we still have a couple of minutes. I will read the questions and we can address all of them at once. The first one is, how does Thailand prioritize science diplomacy and perhaps international cooperation under the broader science and technology frameworks? That's the first question. And the second question is on the impact of AI technologies on research integrity. So perhaps the audience asks your opinions on the impact of AI.
Yes.
Integrity. And the last one, it's the enhancement. How do Thailand enhance the collaboration between the government, university, and startup, perhaps the SME? So these are the three questions.
Okay, I'll try to answer all of the questions, but actually what you will find really more detailed experience through our panelist discussion today, I guess. So I will leave that to Dr. Somkiat as well. But just to answer that question, the first one about the AI, I think AI is staying with us. So I think the policy is not to go away from them, but actually to embrace what's the new development is coming and use it as a tool for advancing the science and technology and learning in higher education. I would say you have to be cautious because there's a lot of things is new for all of us, and there are things about ethics and things that we need to pay attention to before we really understand what the impact of AI is going to have to our education and the science development. But we cannot turn away from it. And then I think the first question was on the cooperation, right? Can you repeat the first one again?
It is about how we prioritize science, diplomacy, and international cooperation under the national policy frameworks on science technology.
Yes, I think internationalization and science diplomacy has to go hand in hand. We can benefit from the science diplomacy, but we got to have like international minds to be able to benefit from that. I think there's a lot of opportunity everywhere in the world. We just have to seek and find the right opportunity for the right projects in Thailand. I think that's what universities are doing. That's what the science research institutions are doing. We have many projects that are created through science diplomacy. And from my experience, it's always start with a personal contact. That's always the beginning of any successful project or relationship, a good contact. So you have to have a win-win understanding in discussion and in dialogues with the partners to carry out the science and internationalizations for a successful science and research development, I guess.
And for the third question is how we enhance the collaboration between the government, university, and also the startup.
Yes, I think both the ministry itself. You can see before we used to have the Ministry of Science, and we have a Ministry of Education, which the higher education is is under that Ministry of Education. But becoming Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research, and Innovation shows the intention of how we want to consolidate the science part, the development of science and research with the higher education. So we view the higher education as a powerhouse of research in doing future strategic research that's required by the country. So by doing that, I think we are more focused into the demands of what countries needed. And that's how we're going to be able to spend the budgets more effectively in developing our country through research by higher education.
Thank you, Ajahn Ratchat. I can confirm Ajahn Ratchat's statement that we will discuss about science, diplomacy, and international cooperation during the panel discussion session as well, especially at the institutional level. But at the ministry level, we regard the science, diplomacy, and international cooperation as the cross-cutting issues. It helps enhance the human capital development and research promotions that which are the focuses of the ministry. So I think we still have time for one or two more questions before and Ratchat's session ends. So unless there is no further question, may I send the floor back to Kulinia?
Great, thank you so much. Yes, we see that the questions have finished now, and we thank Professor Ratchat for answering them as well, and for your insights from your presentations. It's been very great to have you. Of course, we're now going to be moving into our second half of today's session on the panel discussion, but as mentioned, feel free to stick around if you're interested. I thank you so much for your time and for your contribution today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then for our attendees, we are moving into our second part of today's session, which is our panel discussion. And I'll ask Dr. Samkat to stick around, as he will also help facilitate and moderate the panel discussion. But before then, I would like to formally introduce you to our esteemed panelists of today. Our first panelist, allow me to introduce Dr. Varajit Setapun, who is a lecturer and the former dean of the Asian Development College for Community Economy and Technology at Chiang Mai Rajabat University in Thailand. Currently, Dr. Setapun is also the Thailand's expert group for talent mobility for ASEAN, and also the EGTM Secretariat, which coordinates the Talent Mobility Program in the ASEAN Dialogue Partners. She was also the former Deputy Director of the Program Management Unit for Human Resources and Institutional Development, Research and Innovation, where she oversees now currently the global partnerships and climate change programs for Thailand's frontier research. Dr. Setapun was the recipient of the Fulbright Scholarship and received her MS and PhD in chemical engineering from the University of Michigan, with doctoral appointment at Arangon National Laboratory. She established the Chiang Mai World Green City as a living laboratory for green technologies with renewable energy-based smart community. And she was the ASEAN US Science and Technology Fellow and worked at the Ministry of Energy at Thailand's on decentralized community power. And as well, in 2016, she was the ASEAN-US Women in Science for Sustainable Energy part as well. So thank you very much, Dr. Varajit, for being with us here today. Our second panelist is Ms. Leonie Nagarajan, who works at the Nexus of Education, Research and Sustainability. She is also the ASEAN representative for Euraxis Worldwide, which is a European Commission initiative which works on advancing researchers' mobility, international collaboration, and science diplomacy between Europe and the global research community. As the former education director here at the Asia-Europe Foundation, she also led multilateral programs spanning higher education, teaching, teacher learning, and lifelong learning, as well as youth leadership across Asia and Europe. And she's also the co-founder of a Singapore-based social enterprise that drives circularity in the education sector. Leonie holds herself a master's in communication sciences from the Free University of Berlin. And on behalf of course, ASEF, we're very happy to have you come back and contribute with your knowledge and expertise to one of our projects. Again, thank you so much, Leonie, for being with us. And then finally, our third and final panelist, last but not least, is Dr. Ramyan Kosaikanon, who is the Vice President at Mai Phang Luang University in Thailand, and the former Center Director of Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization, the Regional Center for Higher Education and Development, which is the Senior RIHED for short. So at Senior RIHED, she advanced the internationalization of higher education in Southeast Asia, working closely with member countries and the ASEAN Secretariat to co-create a common higher education space with the DEIB, which is Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Principles. And under her leadership, Senior RIHED led key regional initiatives which aimed at harmonizing higher education through policy dialogues, such as the Southeast Asian Higher Education Senior Officials Meeting, student mobility programs like the Asian International Mobility for Students, and also collaborative platforms, including RIHED Share, which is an online knowledge exchange. So we're very grateful also to Dr. Ramyan for being with us today, and to all of our panelists for giving your time and for your sharing of your expertise in the coming hour or so. So with that introduction, I would like to hand back the floor to Dr. Somkya to facilitate today's panel discussion, and I look forward to hearing your insights today. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Kulinia. I'm very excited to welcome you to the panel discussion session. Once again, my name is Somkya, and join me today three highly capable women in higher education, science, and technology, both from Thailand and from Rexus in Europe. Before we start the panel discussion today, I would like to emphasize that this session aims to provide idea and also stimulate the discussion on how we drive the science of diplomacy and international cooperation. Today, our panelists will share the ideas, experience, and insight on what they have done at their respective agencies. We have the researcher, we have the practitioner, we have the funding agency. So we will have the whole perspective in the discussion today. So I would like to start by saying the science diplomacy consists of two words. The first one is science. The second one is the diplomacy. These two things don't exactly go hand in hand. So I would like to start with the challenges in science diplomacy, especially the coordination, the collaboration between the political actor and the university and the academic community, and also the policy alignment. With this topic, I would like to invite Dr. Ramyan to first share her idea and insight on these two worlds, on the academic worlds and political worlds, how they work together, how they collide, how they align, and how they cooperate with each other. Ajahn Ramyan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Somkya, and also thank you, Leonie, for kind introduction. As Leonie also say that I was a former center director of Senior RIHED, and I just returned back to the university for about 3 months. What I'm going to do is that I'm approaching the question that Dr. Somkya has posed using the institutional perspective. So with that, it will be my observation rather than the achievement that we have done at the university, but at least we will try to share with you what we are at least trying to do. So I would talk on something very practical. So before we do that, I want to show you a map. I think you see the map now. In the brown, I'm not so sure whether you see the arrow. The brown over there is Chiang Rai. That's where I'm from. That's where I'm at. working at the moment. So Chiang Rai is very unique because it's one of the two provinces in Thailand that share borders with two other countries. One is Lao PDR on the right and also Myanmar on the north. And I would like to use what is happening in Chiang Rai to highlight the relevance and challenges of the science diplomacy. I'm showing you all this because in the past year also, I think this, okay. Last year, Chiang Rai has made many international headlines. 3 incidents have happened. One is the PM 2.5 pollution, which was really heavy. It's ranked top of the world at one point last year. Second is the heavy flood in September. You probably heard about it, floods in Thailand. That's also happening in Chiang Rai. And third, very recent, is a river contamination that has persisted over the past month. And it's important to note that all the 3 incidents, it is transboundary in nature. And I told you already, Chiang Rai is adjacent to Lao PDR and also Myanmar. Now, if you listen to Ajahn Ratachat's presentation, you would say, okay, science diplomacy, if we are working on that, and mind you, Mae Fah Luang University is being ranked high, very high on THE International Outlook. We have a very good international internationalization profile. And we are focusing on also science diplomacy. But if you think science diplomacy works, you would think that, okay, diplomats come together asking for the scientists to give you the answer. The scientists would be able to provide a better solutions, and then you can make a very good decision of what to do with these issues, right? But in reality, it's not that simple as that, and it's not as simple as that. And for us, in my observation, I think there are many challenges in scientific investigation and collaborations. In order to find a good, sustainable, inclusive solution, you really need to understand the real cause of this river contamination. I would just talk about the river contaminations. But then for us, to know that, okay, the river contaminations come from the across the border, we would need to have access to the physical area to really understand what is happening. Unfortunately, we thought that this river is flowing from Myanmar. It's so difficult to get into the area, even if we talk to the government, because that specific area is under the WA administration. What it means is that even the central government of Myanmar cannot access that area. So, how do you do it if you cannot access to the real source of the problems? Second, I think for the academic collaborations at this stage, what's happening in Myanmar make it very difficult for us to continue the collaborations with scholars. And even when we have the connection with scholars in Myanmar, how can we make sure that the collaborations would give a correct answer, what kind of knowledge that we are constructing, and whether or not it's actually inclusive in terms of the solution we are trying to actually reach. So the third is the geopolitical and geoeconomic tensions. Apparently, we are anticipated that if the mine, this river contamination is caused by the unethical and unprotected mining activities up north in Myanmar. And apparently, it was backed by the foreign direct investment. And given the ongoing geopolitical rivalries, environmental concerns are often being politicized as well. So this complicates the issues of scientific cooperation and transparency. And, we would not give up hope, right? So we are scientists. We thought that, okay, we want to find out anyway what is the real cause of this. We may use other kinds of technology. And indeed, we did use the satellite imagery technology to find out what is happening, what kind of activities is ongoing. However, some stakeholders question the validity and also the data, claiming that this is a bias and it may be influenced by certain countries. And last but not least, even if we don't have this scenario, we still have a question whether we as a scientist in this community have enough knowledge and tools to actually bridge the gaps, especially the funding. So I think the challenges is still there. Even when you think, okay, university is meaning well, we wanted to do the science diplomacy, but in reality, there are complicated issues as well. On top of that, and I would like to highlight too, even for the scientists, and you mean well, I think the scientists also have limitations, and maybe this is better spoken by Dr. Vorajit. No? I think two things are missing usually for the scientists. One is that we are good at doing research, but sometimes we don't really have the policy advocacy skills. Usually, scholars lack of the training to effectively translate the scientific finding into actionable policy recommendations. Or if they do, they stick to the scientific language. And secondly, I think even when they have a very good advocacy skills, they still probably have a lack of the understanding of the policy ecosystem. So when I say the gap in understanding the policy ecosystem, what I mean is that even when you have a good translated recommendations, you don't really know where to go to, how to get access to those people who are making the decisions, what action it should be taken, what kind of frameworks we should work on. So I think this is something that is still lacking. So Dr. Samkiat, if you ask me what are the challenges, this is what I observed. For the past 3 months, I go back to the university. So I hand the floor back to you.
Okay, thank you, Chandra. We hear the challenge. We have the options. We can give up and stop the session right now, or we will fight it together. Okay. The two interesting points from Chandra comment is the first one is science diplomacy is very complicated. It's not as straightforward as the scientists envision. There are many actors. There are many conditions that we need to consider. And the second one is perhaps scientists need to be bilingual. They need to speak science language, and they also need to speak the politics and policy language in order to communicate better with the policy makers and the political actor. Perhaps that's the 2 points that I have already mentioned and raised, and perhaps we can discuss these 2 points later in this session. Next, I would like to call on our Jan Borajit, who identified herself as the researchers. We hear from Ajahn Robin, who identified herself as the practitioner. So let's hear what the researchers think about the challenges in the science, diplomacy, and international cooperation. Ajahn Borajit, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Somkiat, and thank you, Dr. Romyan, for handing me my discussion topic. So as we see, Linia give a short overview of my bio. So I was I wear a few hats before, and now I'm back to a researcher's hat and academia hat at Chiang Mai Ratchapat University. So from Ajahn Ratchachat, I just want to say Chiang Mai Ratchapat University is the group of university is community-based, focusing on community development. So at first, our goal was to bring local to global. You think about that. And so our idea was trying how do we do research, internationalization to bring, to uplift or enhance the local research or into internationalization, somewhat like that. It's in the beginning. And so when you talk about science diplomacy in that kind of aspect, if you're a pure scientist like me, so I'm chemical engineering, bachelor, master, PhD. I also do postdoc in real scientific research. You're not that exposed to policy as much because we're focusing on narrow scope and deep dive into mechanisms and everything. So our mind was not trained to look for a big picture, diplomacy, policy, and everything. And we might not understand how our research can help provide or policy recommendation. that kind of aspect. So when you said we need to learn two language, scientific language to write papers, another one is policy or normal language or normal language to write policy brief, so policymakers can understand. So I was going to say the challenge is one person can't do it all. So there need to be a team. So that is a team, some like very scientific mind. Another one is scientific as a translated to a policy language and so on. So with that, so that's the first gap. And then another one is the chances for scientists to do project that can have policy implementations, and also using our research to provide scientific evidence. That's difficult based on like pure science. So it has to be like science engineering mixed with social science, with humanity and diplomacy. So it's not interdisciplinary, it's transdisciplinary. So various getting out of that type of silo. And that's another gap of breaking the silo of what we are having there right now. So from my experience in attending several science diplomacy program or conferences, if I attend the conference, like just talk about science diplomacy, I still don't get it. I'm thinking about like 10 years ago. What are you talking about? How is it important to me? I don't get it. And if you talk about Thailand policy on STI, as a researcher in the university, I still don't get it. I try to read the plan, the 5-year action plan for Thailand. I still don't get it because the language is so plan related. What can make me get it is I have to be embedded and be a project or have a position like get the fellowship like ASEAN US fellows where I was embedded in the ministry, or I was the PMUB vice director where I was secondment in the MHESI ministry as well. So that helped me. It's just me, okay? It helped me provide an understanding. And so I kind of like learn from that and try to translate the policy and talk to the researcher. So like my second role was intermediary between policymaker and to help network or connect with the researcher. So that is kind of my second role. So the challenge is hard to understand because we haven't been trained that way when we did our studies. And but there is a way, but it's just like connection, lesson learned from each other. And I think that helped a lot in breaking those challenges out there. And the world of policy, just Thailand is complicated enough. And then I'm in with ASEAN right now, like 10 countries. Can science diplomacy make all the 10 countries agree on a project? If this project is high tech, if it's like space, right? The new ASEAN plan right now focusing on space as well, but is it inclusive for every country or not regarding the topic of space? So how do we make that arrangement? Not just like get a consensus within our own country, but using science to help provide evidence that space is also important for the 10, going to be 11 member ASEAN countries like that. And then not only that, if we manage or with international partners, with our dialogue partners like from EU, and how do you use that evidence base or to navigate with that? I'm sharing my I feel my experience on a lot of questions and challenges that is hard to do, but there are ways of moving, but it seems kind of slow. Yeah, but there are ways. There's still hope in there. So that is what my experience is. Now back to Dr. Somkiat. I hope this would be a more of a you can add on shine things as well, more of a discussion.
Okay. Another issues, another difficulties, but I can ensure to on attendance today, on attendees today, that things will get better after this. We will talk about things that give us hope and the way we can address these challenges. But from Ajahn Projit comments, science diplomacy team working, of course, and we are still facing challenges in terms of human capacity, especially the awareness and the comprehension on the science diplomacy, and also how they view the science diplomacy as irrelevancy to what they have done. And also, it's getting more and more complicated from one country to the region to interregional collaboration and issues. So with that challenges in mind, let's move to something that gives us hopes, which is how our university, research institutions, and funding agency help us addressing these challenges. I would like to ask Kun Leonie to comment on the role of funding agencies in addressing the science diplomacy challenges. Kun Leonie, the floor is yours. I'm excited to hear from you. Please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Somkiat. Yes, I think we need to have a few more encouraging notes here, because it looks like science diplomacy has a lot of challenges, but we have an audience which obviously wants to hear that it's working and that the researchers are doing a fantastic job in enhancing our collaboration. I just wanted to add one point before I answer the question by Dr. Somkiat. I think you... Dr. Voracek and Dr. Romian, you do not only speak or must speak 2 languages. I think you have to speak 4 languages, because first is the language for your scientific papers. That's number 1. Then is the language for the policy briefs. Then you also need to communicate it to the public, because science diplomacy is not working at all if we are not engaging the public. And I believe you mentioned, Dr. Voracek, also it's from local to global and it's from global to local. So you need to have this local impact, and that only works when science communication works. And the last language is everything is currently in English. So 4 languages you need to be proficient in to make this work. Back to the question of Dr. Somkiat, the role of a higher education institution. So first of all, I would like to say at the beginning, they play a very, very crucial role. And yes, we heard about some challenges, several challenges here, and probably the biggest one is currently geopolitical challenges. We heard about the challenges of staff, training of researchers, but also diplomats speaking science language. So, but I think the role of university is really being here the connector between countries, between the topic as itself, and also between the different cultures. So, like Romian, I'm coming from a practical or from a practitioner point. I don't want to say that funding is always the solution, even though I'm representing a very large funding tool, and maybe later I can go a bit more into this, which is Horizon Europe. But I think Horizon Europe is a beautiful example to see how universities are playing exactly that role as connector, because of the collaboration between not only within one country, but between one region and multiple regions and continents across the world. So Rumian highlighted that the point of cross-border collaboration. That's exactly what Horizon Europe aims to do. You talked about key challenges. The local challenge now is the pollution of the river, but this is an international challenge, pollution of the environment, climate change. This is one topic which Horizon Europe is tackling. And maybe just to let you know, as we are talking now about Thailand, even though I wear the hat of EURACSES worldwide representative and talking mainly about Horizon Europe, I think Thai organizations are doing a very good job here in tackling these cross-border challenges and doing their work contributing to science diplomacy across crucial sectors, crucial thematic areas. Just a few examples. Chulalongkorn University, Chiang Mai University, not your university as well, participated in a number of projects already. There were one project which was some research projects which were very crucial over the past years were pandemic preparedness. So especially in the field of health, I think science diplomacy was working very well with the participation of Thai institutions. So I would like to end my first comment rather on a positive note. We will maybe find funding for the pollution of the river and hopefully do support here research projects in that field. But in other areas, it worked very well.
Cool. Thank you very much for the encouragement. And I agree with you, science diplomacy and international cooperation is working. Our world is working. We let the attendance decide. But from the ministry perspective and from my experience, it is it's played crucial roles in addressing global challenges from the climate change to the pollutions. The issues that come up from Kuleoni comments. The first one is the importance of the communication and promoting buy-in amongst the stakeholders in science diplomacy, and the roles of university research institution and funding agencies, the connector between the science community and political actors, political players. So that's the comments from Kuleoni. I would like to give the floor to Ajahn Romyan to comment on the same topic, on the same issues, on how the university can address the challenges from science diplomacy and promote science diplomacy at the same time. Ajahn Romyan, the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Somkiat. And actually, I would like to add the fifth language, Leonie. And I think the fifth language, you like it or not, but actually right now, economics is the currency, right? So even whatever you do, the project that you want to have, you're always having to speak the economics language, whether it's actually worth investing on these collaborations or not. So the fifth language is economics language, is the currency for the politician when you are making the decision. But I agree with Leonie. I mean, I actually pro collaboration. If you have a good inclusive collaborations, cautious enough, but then you have a shared vision, I think that always give a good positive outcomes. Even when the university are struggling to tackle these issues, and this issue is a big issue because what we have contaminated is the heavy metal of arsenic. And we know that it's not going to be going away very easily. At the same time, we also know that this kind of problems also happening elsewhere. So for the university, as we position ourselves to be a hub for the Greater Mekong sub-region, which is the big river systems and the basin, we want to make sure that we actually truly serve and work closely with scholars in other countries in the Greater Mekong sub-regions. And with that, we try to engage in different networks within the region itself. For example, we are part of the semi-right GMSUC, which is the Greater Mekong Sub-Region University Consortium. And with that, we are working on the leadership capacity building, especially for research as well. This project has been funded by DAAD. We want to make sure that the leaders of the universities are connected in this region. And the researchers also know each other, so that when the issues pop up, they can tackle this, and at least they have the foundation that they know each other's areas. And with that position of the university, we have for the past 3 months started 2 new initiatives. One is the research funding from the university, and it is focusing to tackle this arsenic contamination in the international rivers. So we are providing grants for researchers who would like to take up the research. It would be good if they have collaboration with the scholars across the border. If not, it's still okay. That's the first one. Second is the scholarship for international students, and this is a full-time scholarship and is aimed specifically on these issues as well. And they are open as a full scholarship for master and also PhD. We want to have someone who are really committed to tackle this problem, and we see it as a long-term investment, meaning, we create the network, we understand and having a better access to the area where there is a cause of the problems, and we wanted to actually know and make sure that the solution that we are finding also meet their needs. It's not like finding a solution and be causing the problems elsewhere. So these scholarships, if you are working together with the research funding from the first one, it would be good to have both the research funding and also the scholarship for students. We also realize that actually us alone cannot do this by ourselves. So we are also promoting international research collaborations. I was thinking of you as well, Leonie, when we are trying to do all of this, and we are connecting the dots, as you say. We are working with ASEF trying to identify who are the experts in Austria, for example, or in Italy, because they might have the same issues. We are working under the Franco-Thai Scholarship Framework as well to see whether there is a possibility to have incoming scholars to the university so that they can address the issues. We explore the funding with the Lan Chang Mekong Corporation because, having somebody upstream engaging in this research can probably help speaking for the policy itself. So for us, partnership internationally is important because at the end of the day, we cannot move the university. I cannot move the house. I have to be there. So this problem is something that we have to tackle. So at least this is what the university can do. Of course, there are more we can do about this, but then for the past 3 months, this is what we are trying to do, creating the kind of like the initiatives and also bringing in people trying to tackle the issues. Yeah. How much it will go into the diplomacy, let's wait and see, but at least we are starting on something.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn. It's very good to hear that university has done a lot in terms of promoting science diplomacy. Perhaps we may have done many things that we don't know exactly. We have yet known it's a part of science diplomacy because the science diplomacy is it's relatively a new terms for the Thai academic communities. We have done international corporations, but we are not sure if it's part of science diplomacy. And with that in mind, I'd like to give floor to Ajahn Borajit to have her commenting on what's the role of research agencies in terms of promoting science diplomacy. And please, Ajahn Borajit, do not add any more language.
5 languages enough.
Okay, 5 languages enough. All right.
I was going to say the local language. Okay, thank you so much. All right. So the role of higher education. So if we think about the higher education, when we do promote science diplomacy, we don't blatantly say promote science diplomacy. We do it by our plan, research plan or development plan for the researcher and thematic area. For example, like Chiang Mai Ratchapat University, our goal is to promote community development. So the community development, it has to use innovation, science, and then match to help provide solutions for the local issues. But the local issues, you have to work with all the local stakeholders, such as municipality, like the local people, and also ministries as well. So that is the foundation role for diplomacy right there, using science to help, but we don't really call it science diplomacy. Then in the international type of level, based on that background, when we do international projects together, we kind of use that what do you call like skill sets that we have to look at wider stakeholder to help with developing the project toward helping provide solutions in the regional level, international level, as in like science diplomacy, like what we're trying to do for cross-border like talent development or various issues as in climate change, renewable energy, so on and so forth. Another one is I want to talk in the form of funding agencies, since that's my previous role. And my role was to promote global partnership. The goal for the global partnership funding is we provide several funding schemes for research, for the researcher or human resource development. So two types of talent development or frontier research. But for those schemes, the idea was different from a purely scientific research. We want to look at the proposal with a balance in good science, and can it develop international network or that partnership, just a foundation, or enhance the current partnership? And the third is regional impact. Will the research having impact not just for Thailand, even though the funding is maybe bilateral between, like, for example, like Thailand and the Philippines, Thailand and Germany with that, or multilateral, maybe Japan, Thailand, Indonesia, or in the Europe setting, like the JFS program, where in the European setting, France, Thailand, or maybe Laos PDR, those kind of things. But when the funding agency look for in the proposal is that balance, that impact. If the science might not be deep dive, cutting edge frontier, but if it has impact, I think, and good network to provide as a foundation for further, that is what we look for at that time. So if you look closely, well, if you link different program in the funding agency together, it's like the whole ecosystem and foundation. You set up the talent, you do very deep dive research, and then you do applied research, commercialization, internationalization, standards. So it's kind of that kind of link and created impact. If you look closely at the different funding, you kind of see that shaping toward what we want is impact regionally, which is science diplomacy right there. So that is what it might not blatantly spelled it out, but it's there. Yeah, in there. Okay, so that's kind of it on for my take. Thank you. And I did not add any language.
All right, thank you very much. So Ajahn Rojit raised the issues on balancing knowledge creation with partnership and the impact of utilizing that knowledge. And yes, of course, I'm all for the mutual benefits between within the international cooperation frameworks. And also, I would like to emphasize that Thailand is moving towards the co-funding approach when we do the international cooperation. So these are the view on how university research agency and the funding agency help addressing the science diplomacy challenges and to promote the science diplomacy within the academic and policy communities. The next topic I would like to ask our panelists is the tangible or the experience and the case that you have done, because what we are discussing so far is more of the concept, more of the ideas. So I would like to ask you on your experience. Perhaps you can share the case and the work that you have done. May I start with Ajahn Robyen? So let's share with us on what Apple University has done so far in terms of science.
Thank you very much, Dr. Somkiat. So I'm going to share maybe, if I may, two examples. One from what we have done at Mephalung University some years back, and another is the project we have done at Senior Right Head. I go for the first one first. When the situation in Myanmar was not like the current situation, actually the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Innovation came up with the strategic plan for academic cooperation with the neighboring countries. And you have a plan for Myanmar as well. And because Mae Falun University is located at the border, and we dedicated ourselves to serve the Greater Mekong sub-region, we decided to put up the project being funded by the ministry. And what we are trying to do is that we see that we have a long border between Myanmar and Thailand. And we thought it would be good if we have a pair of universities along the border working together as a network. So we created the leadership programs for 7 universities in Thailand and 7 universities in Myanmar, so that we get to know each other as a foundation. Later on, this network, which we meet twice a year, developed into research proposals and being put into the bilateral technical committee of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So they wanted to identify something they want to do together. At the beginning, I have to say, Thai universities were thinking, there's nothing for me to do in Myanmar, because, we are probably more advanced in terms of scientific knowledge, more advanced in terms of laboratory. That's what the idea. But we are managing to change the mindset and see that, the border, if you want us to have a security, it is something that we have to work together. So the collaboration on that level has bear fruits into a joint research collaboration, which has been endorsed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. At the moment, I'm not so sure how far it's gone and how much success it has, it's considering the political situation in Myanmar. But that is the first example I would like to share with you. Secondly, but having said this, all the leaders in that circle still on the line group. So we chat sometimes, the network is still there. Whether or not it's actually contributing to the science diplomacy, but the network is still there, the person is still there. So at least that's something to know. Second is at the senior right head. And actually, Leonie, you have joined us on this activity before. So we have a project called Horizon Southeast Asia, pushing the frontier of research for sustainability. And this program or this project is being supported by the AAD, the German Academic Exchange Service. And it comes up because we did a research on the research ecosystem in Southeast Asian countries. We were asking questions, how come certain countries in Southeast Asia are not doing so much research? And usually we have a myth that one, they don't have money. When we say money is not everything, it's true. Some countries, they do have money, but they don't have the mechanisms to fund the budget. Take, for example, Laos set up like 1% of their national expenditure for research, but they don't really have a mechanism or regulations to actually grant the research funds itself, for example. So we are finding out what is missing in the research ecosystem and how can we actually work together more. And for this reason, we identify some of these factors and we come up with a project. We work with Osnabrück University of Applied Science, who are leaders in doing the higher education leadership programs, for so many years. So we work with them and we are bringing in leadership levels on research, trying to make them see what are missing in the research ecosystem so that they can set it up in their own institutions and facilitate a better community of researchers to tackle some of the issues. And second level is the researchers network. So we set up 3 topics. One is on climate change. Second is on sustainable international reverse management. And third is sustainable agricultural production. So in each of these topics, the researchers would have a chance to meet annually, and they would have the mobility exchange program. So these researchers would get a chance to visit different countries, so they would understand what is the real issues or the challenges. I think all of this shows that, with a better understanding, being able to identify what is the real bottleneck of the research collaboration, it actually helps. So I think this year is the concluding year for this project, and we would see, how far it could go. One thing that I think is missing is actually, learning how to do the advocacy. This is something we didn't put into our project in the design, because we thought that we want to bridge certain gaps. And of course, you have to choose. You cannot do everything. So that's the two examples I shared.
Thank you very much, Shangok. I admire what you have done as the Vice President of Nepal, as the Director of CDP. The cooperation between Thailand and Myanmar has been good, and we host more and more Myanmar students in Thailand, especially after COVID situation ends. They are the biggest, one of the biggest student foreign student body in Thailand. The leadership programs help facilitate the cooperation between Thailand and Myanmar at both ministry and university levels. With that, I would like to move to Leonie. I know that you prepare a slide showing us what your access has done. So what the Horizon programs. Leonie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Somkiat. I take the keyword from Rumian. She just highlighted the recent or the ongoing project, which is by Simeo Raihat on Horizon Southeast Asia. So let's move a little bit, because I'm wearing now a European hat. Let's move to Horizon Europe. The budget is slightly different, Rumian, between Horizon Southeast Asia and Horizon Europe. And I don't want to talk now the language of money, which is not all, but definitely when one imagine 90.5 billion euros. And I decided I put this in Thai baht as well, which is a trillion. So it is definitely, yes, Dr. Voracit, it's a lot. That is true. But this budget is not there for economic reasons. It is really there for collaboration purposes and for tackling key challenges. So first, before I start, I want to comment and congratulate the ASEF team for the report they have created. And obviously before that session, I hope also that all the participants read the Thailand chapter, because there were a few examples already of mainly bilateral collaboration mechanisms between universities and also governments with Thailand. So I would like to extend this a little bit from bilateral to multilateral, because the program which I'm representing for your access is the largest multilateral funding program and research collaboration program in the world. And it is not only about funding and collaboration, it is really a science diplomacy tool per se, an enabling instrument which makes this which brings together partners across different sectors. So give me, Dr. Somkiat, a little bit of airtime, please. I will be concise, but I think it is important. I also have a few examples from Thailand here with me. And I think when looking at the participants, I'm quite sure there are a lot of researchers, university representatives, hopefully also university leadership representatives who will get inspired and maybe take interest in applying here. So this is Horizon Europe, the largest funding framework for research collaboration in the world. It looks complex when we are talking about the collaboration between Southeast Asia, Thailand, and Europe and the world. We mainly look into Pillar 1 and Pillar 2. I will go later into these 2 pillars, but as I said before, this budget is available to tackle climate change and help achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So it's about international collaboration, strengthening the impact of research. Dr. Voracek highlighted that earlier as well. And it is there to support the creation and sharing of excellent knowledge. But at the end, for what? To create impact on the ground. So these 2 pillars, which you have earlier seen on the main slide, are 2 pillars relevant for researchers from Thailand. Pillar 1 is on excellent science, and these are opportunities for individual researchers of any nationality. They are often embedded in collaborative research projects by institutions. And Pillar 2 are large-scale collaborative research projects in various clusters. And Romeo, you highlighted that Horizon Southeast Asia focuses on sustainable agriculture, focuses on climate change. We talked earlier about health. So I think when we talk about science diplomacy, actually the topics, the core themes are all the same somehow, with a few priorities here and there, but otherwise we are we're sitting all in the same boat. So when it comes to Pillar 1, which is the focus more on the support of individual researchers, and this goes beyond the training and the project of the training of the research per se. It's also training, skills development of researchers. You might have heard about the Marie Sklodowska career actions. These can be postdoctoral fellowships, doctoral networks, and staff exchanges. And here the term already implies it is a collaborative project beyond borders. It brings together different institutions, so there is already a science diplomacy element in it. And when it comes to the European Research Council, this is for individual researchers working in high-risk, high-gain pioneering projects. Also, this is needed because we need the frontier research to tackle exactly these large-scale challenges of today's society. These are the 6 clusters under Horizon Europe Pillar 2, collaborative projects. I just leave them here very briefly, but we talked about them before, also relevant for the Thai policy context. So now we come to a few illustrations. I think this gives hope for science diplomacy and also proves that it works because these are the connections which have been created through Horizon Europe projects where Thai institutions and researchers took part in. And you will see there are a lot of connections worldwide through these projects which were funded under Horizon Europe. This is a summary which I would like to share with you. You can see here in which areas the institutions were mainly engaged. So natural sciences are leading, followed by medical and health sciences, and then the social sciences and engineering and technology. On the left, what you see is Horizon 2020. That was the predecessor of Horizon Europe. But in total, there were 35 projects, grant projects signed. Much more proposals were obviously submitted for funding, but Thailand is doing a good job with a success rate of 26%. And below the links, what do these links represent? These are organizations with whom Thai institutions have collaborated with and the leading countries. One very practical project at the end. It's an ongoing project called Greener RPP in the field of biotechnology. And this is a project which is coordinated by a university hospital in the Netherlands, the University Hospital in Groningen. It has 2 Thai institutions engaged next to other 13 participants and partners. This is, and you can see here in the little map all the organizations which are involved in. here is the professor from Mahidol University, and I'm quite sure Dr. Borshid, maybe you might know him, and Dr. Romian, I'm quite sure if you read his testimonial about the collaboration, I think it says all about the importance of Horizon Europe, the importance of international cooperation, and it works. So with this was my practical example from a European and beyond funding framework. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kun Leonie. Can have as much airtime as you want when you talk about money and funding. Everybody wants to hear that.
And screen grab as well, I think.
It is. And I'm pretty sure Kun Leonie are more than happy to share the slide to the attendees, because this will be very useful for us in order to access to Horizon Europe programs. I can say our ministry has partnered with a university in Europe, and we submit the proposal to get a grant from Horizon Europe, and it's highly competitive. We get the evaluation at 90%. We still don't get the grant. So I would like to encourage our attendants, if you come from university and research university, please find a very capable partner in Europe. It helps you a lot in order to get a grant. With that in mind, I'd like to move to Ajahn Vorajit. If you have any practical cases or experience, please share with us and attendants today. Ajahn Vorajit, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I have several cases actually, but I want to share from my personal cases as well. Because Dr. Ratchashat say that the internationalization or diplomacy or partnership comes from personal connection. So a lot of the examples is from personal connections as well. So there are a lot of programs to bring people together and have them understand each other, breaking down the silos. I'll just give a few examples. So the first one is near and dear to my heart, which is the ASEAN US Fellow that started in 2014 and run for about 5 years. This program bring the researcher and embedded them in the ministry for 1 year. So we leave our life at the university and we go and work for the ministry. This helped not only that kind of internship, because they kind of confuse who we are we intern? But we're Ajahn from a university, how can we become interns, those kind of things. But what we learned from that is I was embedded in the Ministry of Energy for Thailand. And my friend was in Malaysia, was embedded in their ministry, or Cambodia, or everybody is different. By the end, and then we come together about twice a year for about 2 weeks and just share lesson learned from what we learn and build our capacity regarding to communications. So we learn about 3 more languages, which is policy language, regular people's language or science communication, policy brief science communication, and also how we present ourselves both on like social media as well as various different things or communicate with others. So this program is they funded and helped create about 70 fellows throughout the program. And when you look at those 70 fellows, who they are right now, some of them are becoming upper level in their institution, deans, vice president, and so on and so forth. Another, they become they leave the university and join ASEAN as well. And once my friend become in ASEAN Secretariat, have a chance to reconnect with our other scientists, and they understand the scientist side and understand the ASEAN side and work on. Some go and work for their ministry, some still stay. So that network of finding how to and help train the scientists actually help. To pay it forward, a lot of my fellow friends initiate the ASEAN diplomat program, where we want to use our experience of what we learn and also our connections and pay it forward to create more people. If the funding agency from the US at the time, it's because it's 5 years, the program has stopped, but we want to try to do among ourselves and trying to create how do we train. It's not going to be like 1 year embedded, but it's going to be that training. So that's kind of like one example of how for those personal connections, how we run and help create the diplomat program, understand both policy side and the science side. Another one that is really interesting comes out of the Global Young Scientists Academy, GYA. Global Young Scientists Academy, they do a selection, very rigorous selection of top tier young scientists from all around the world. 500 people and come together and join, and they have the program as a science leadership program, and they've started regionally, like ASLP, Africa Science Leadership Program. And in a sense, for Thailand, Dr. Organo, she was the co-chair for GYA, and she brought it back to Thailand. And for ASEAN, create the ASEAN Science Leadership Program, bring the 10 countries together, and then created the APEC Science Leadership Program in more of a regional level to do a selection and bring scientific leaders together and do activities together for at least a week. And with that kind of connection, that network, it does help provide a broader perspective in the policy level, the scientific level, and how do we work together as a science leader to move on. So that's the second program. And then another one that I see is from Japan, actually. Japan is doing the STI coordination program, actually with ASEAN. And they also see, in order to tackle grand challenges between the region, and there has to be someone to try to help coordinate and manage very large stakeholder, not nationally, but internationally as well. So how do you develop that soft skill, not technical skill, but that kind of soft skill in coordination to help to help promote scientific, provide solutions for grand challenges. And I think it's also helped with diplomacy as well, because we're talking in the regional level. And then a few so on and so forth. So there are a lot of activities actually to promote scientists with policymakers, but in with the hope that with this we can understand each other and also different pillars of science, and that friendship will promote diplomacy and working in terms of regional wise. So yeah, there's a lot. So I hope that for those of you who are listening, if there are a program like this, please send or submit, apply, or create the program for yourselves or based on your institution. It does help, really. Okay, that's it on for the cases and experience on my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn. You raised the issues on capacity building with the young scientists, global scientists. So I would like to follow up on that issue, which is our last topics of today programs. So to help promote science diplomacy, I understand that the human capacity building is the foundation. So so I would like to hear from you how we are going forward to develop our academic leaders, so they can help promote the science diplomacy and international cooperation, as I'm working on these things.
All right, thank you very much. So how do we promote our academic leaders? So there are several mechanisms in order to do that. As I said, for a few examples, which is they have to come out of their comfort zone, either by volunteer or by force. We don't force people to do it. So we kind of start with pioneers on the volunteers who want to help in terms of internationalization or regionally, and send them exchanges, get to learn from each other, first like bilateral between countries, and also provide in the international exchanges to more regional level, ASEAN, APEC, between Thailand, EU, and so on and so forth. And then they have to be more consistent and have a project base. So with that starting of that networking, if they can have project multi-country, or start with 2 countries together and have 3 countries, and that's how they learn to do project that is if it's the same region, it's easy, might be easier, or across different time zone, and how do you manage that across time zone. So it's learning by doing. I think it helps, and it does take time, but it built character, built skill sets in order to do that. And then if for the academic leaders, if we can identify the people who are willing to becoming leaders in a higher level, like Dr. Rom Yen, like that, right? So she sacrificed her university position and went to be the director in civil rights, and that, I think that helped build her view of the regional and the global perspective as well. So with that, that's the what do you call promote in as a form of secondment. And if the universities have the help with the flexibility in regulations, that some academia, if they have the potential, send them to be secondment, and that would bring their perspective regionally, and also help train the younger researchers in the future as well. So it's kind of like, exchanges, do project, multiple exchanges, and do some secondment. I think that helped build the leaders, for science diplomacy in the future.
Thank you, Ajahn Rajit. Ajahn Rajit, do you have anything to add on the Dr. Rajit?
I actually, when you were posing this question, I was thinking of what is missing for the leadership for research in science diplomacy. And I was thinking maybe what is missing is the strategic thinking of what is the vision for the science diplomacy. I think if you are clear, or the leaders are clear of why you wanted to do science diplomacy, the relevancy and all of that, I think, and if they can come up with a vision, I think it would help. But to have that, I think you need to have a capacity building for that as well, to have a strategic thinking of why you are doing the science diplomacy for. I think that's one. Secondly, I always have a question. How often do the scientists and diplomats engage in the genuine conversation? I'm not so sure in our culture we do it that often. I'm not so sure. I can see what is happening, the setup in Europe, and maybe something that we can learn from the European side as well. And I've just talked to Kun Samkiat, because you were based in Brussels. I think this is something that we can do. Maybe if you send the leadership in research to shadow the policymakers based in Brussels and see how they make a decision, see how they utilize the research, that could be a good way of learning. I also asked the question, are policymakers communicating their needs for the scientific input? I wonder whether it's our culture as well for the policymakers to come up and say, oh, we want to know this answer. Can we ask a scientist to do this, for us? And we investigate what would be the best solution. I'm not so sure whether we have that. I also learned from my colleagues in Osnabrück University of Applied Science that you have sessions like that in Europe, in the EU. Sometimes you call in the researchers, you call in the scientists, and you tell them what you want as an answer. I'm not so sure we have that kind of culture in this region. And maybe it's good to have one like that happening, or at least plan that kind of idea. And I think we also have to ask ourselves, is academic community ready and equipped to respond if there is a need like that generated from the policymakers. We also have to ask that kind of question. But all in all, I think it's important that we need to have both capacity building, strategic thinking, and also the skills to create the ecosystems that is conducive to kind of deliver the science diplomacy. Apart from the shadowing policymakers, I think the mobility programs, like Ajahn Sai has said, is a good one as well. So you can place the researchers in the think tanks, in the working environment somewhere else to see what is really needed and what is successful think tank do in order to advocate for the policy change. I also think that joint research projects, like the one Leonie is, funding is supported. I think that could be one way of learning as well, how that is done. Especially you embedded the objectives to influence the policy. I think that would help. Yeah, so I think that's from me.
Thank you, Ajahn Rob. Leonie, do you want to weigh in these issues? If you have any comment, please do so. And also, I see you want to address the question on the project. I mean, I see the question in the Q&A box. Perhaps if you want to address that question, this is the time for you.
Thank you, Dr. Somkiat. Yeah, I would like to highlight, in fact, two projects which were funded under Horizon Europe, which were focusing on science diplomacy and training policymakers, but also different representatives, including university representatives in that field. They have concluded, so hopefully with the support of European institutions, but maybe also with some input from Southeast Asian and Thai institutions, follow-up projects could be developed. One is called S4D4C, using science for and in diplomacy for addressing global challenges. And I think this addresses a little bit the last question, which we have here from an anonymous attendee, how we could bring science diplomacy onto the political negotiation table. I think that would be one project to do so. And the other project is called Insight, Inventing a Shared Science Diplomacy in Europe. That was more European focused, but that could be definitely a project for the future also on a wider scope. Yeah, the question I wanted to address is from Yik Supanuch. I'm not sure if it's she. What are the important metrics to measure success rate? The success of, I would assume you mean the success of projects. So that starts already at the proposal stage, and then of course the evaluation, because all the Horizon Europe projects are measured and evaluated by 3 criteria. The first one is excellent science. So what is actually the methodology, the research methodology, which is applied, the background of the researcher, also the supervisor, what kind of expertise does she or he bring in. The second one is impact, what we were talking about before. Impact is also the whole area of exploitation in the field of what can we learn for policies, what kind of impact does it have on the ground for the local community. And the last one is then the implementation. So, and this can be at the end, in many cases, especially for the MSCA projects, which focus on individual researchers, a typical success would be, for example, the employability of a researcher and the future career prospects, the follow-up projects this researcher is doing. And it is beautiful to see that many researchers, and we have a few examples in Thailand as well, started with an MSCA postdoctoral fellowship, for example, and now they're leading large-scale collaborative projects as well. So that is how we would measure success. You start at a personal, maybe a personal connection, and then you move on to larger projects.
All right, thank you for learning that. There are many sources or information online about the Horizon Europe programs. Maybe later share with the attendees. attendees on where to find the information. But there is a question, inclusion of science diplomacy in the political negotiation table, especially if we can use the science diplomacy to mitigate the impact of President Trump's policy, especially on the tariff. I'm not sure if the economists should address this question. If that's so, I would like to ask Dr. Romyan to address these questions.
If I can address this question well, then I would resign from being the vice president. Actually, I have to say, when you talk about science and diplomacy, science is more, you want it to be very neutral. You want to be like fact-based, neutral, no bias. Unfortunately, when you have the science marrying with the word diplomacy, diplomacy usually get very politicized, highly politicized. So, if you are going to do the negotiations, you can talk about science, you can think about, economic way of analyzing what would be a positive impact, negative impacts, how do you work together and all of that. But at the end of the day, it goes into the negotiation tables. And what we have said, for the past an hour and a half, you would hear that, whether your finding would go into the table or not, that's one thing, right? So, it involves a lot of things as well. Of course, you can do the analysis, what are the impacts, what you can do together to mitigate the impact, yes. But, to go further into the negotiation table, I think it's another story and it's complicated, as I already mentioned from the case that I showed you earlier on. So, long story short, when you want it to be a positive science diplomacy, but then when the diplomacy gets so politicized, I think that's another question that we have to find out, how do we make it work?
All right, thank you, Ajahn Romyan. I think that's all the time we have. I would like to wrap up this session by saying, despite challenges that we have, science diplomacy still has hopes. The partnership, the global cooperation is the foundation in addressing the global issue, change, pollution, the shortage of talents, and the cooperation need to be balanced in terms of knowledge, partnership, and impacts, and it should benefit every partner, every stakeholder mutually. And with that, I would like to thank all panelists and attendees for being here with me. I'd like to give the floor back to Linnea, and thank you very much for having me today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Somkiat, and thank you, Dr. Vorajit, Dr. Romyan, and Ms. Leone also for being with us here today, for sharing your insights. It's been very interesting listening to your inputs and a bit of the back and forth here. What are the challenges? What are the benefits? How are we using science and technology diplomacy in this field of research and academia? So thank you very much for your insights, and again for the questions as well from the audience, which helped guide the discussions today. It is my pleasure to again thank everyone for joining us, and allow me to make some few closing remarks as we're wrapping up today. It's been a pleasure to have you all with us today for these past 2 hours. Thank you also again to Dr. Ratachat for his keynote presentation in the beginning, which helped set the scene for today's discussion. This was our second session as part of the country-focused workshop series on Thailand, and we also have one more upcoming on the role of businesses, focusing on the private sector here in the role in the ecosystem in Thailand. So if you're interested and haven't yet signed up for that session, please go ahead and do so. We very much look forward to hosting you again, same time next week for that final session. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are also running a parallel workshop series on Indonesia and the science and technology diplomacy ecosystem there. So if you're interested, we have the second session also on the topic of academia and research institutions taking place tomorrow. And then a subsequent one also on the role of businesses next week. So you can scan the QR code here if you're interested in joining those sessions. We also have the report, the full Asia-Europe Science and Technology Diplomacy report that Leonie mentioned and that I also briefly introduced in the beginning of today's session. If you're interested in reading more about this vast landscape that is present in Asia and Europe, and also to look into specific countries, perhaps more on Thailand or on any of our other countries that we have in the report, as they annex with all of the country reports written by our contributors are also available for your perusal. With that, the time is up for us today. I thank everyone again for being here, for our panelists, for Dr. Somkiat for the moderation, to Dr. Ratchat for the keynote, and for everyone's contributions. It's been very interesting to learn more from you, and we hope you as audience as well has learned a lot and some perhaps food for thought as you go away from today's session. If you're joining us from Asia, I wish you a good rest of your evening. If you're joining from Europe, a good rest of your day. And we hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much.